Save 8% off your order at TruTechTools.com by using the Shop Talk discount code. Good grief. How's it going, everybody? This is Zach Cioto with the HVAC Shop Talk podcast. I'm on live in the afternoon now because this morning I was unavailable. The important man that I am. Had somewhere to go this morning, including Johnstone. Had to go to Johnstone this morning, pick up some duct fittings because I love duct work and I just love doing duct work. I can't stand it. Got to have more of it. More duct work all the live long day. Yippee-doo-dah day. But because of that, I couldn't do my stream this morning, and now I'm here in the afternoon because I want to do a stream every day possible. So I'm out here. It's not that hot outside, so I'm in my little shed here where there's no conditioned air, but it's a nice day, so it's all good. Hope you guys are doing well out there, too. I'll check the comments and see who we have out there. Go ahead and comment if you would like to be recognized live on the air. We have Bimco who's about to pack it up for the day. He says he'll be in and out. Bimco, just put your stuff down and let's just sit down and listen to the rest of the show. It'll only be like an hour or something, maybe less, maybe more. Who knows? Last time was more because we got on the sales conversation with Beaver. Guys, we had a great conversation for like an hour. I'm like, Beaver, man, what's up? What are you doing? He's like, I'm sitting in my driveway. I kept Beaver, away from his lunch break for like half an hour. But he's free. He's out there right now probably selling some good, better, best stuff, probably going for the best if Train has it in stock, which they don't. I think they have 20 Sears. They have 20 Sears, actually. 118. I listened to the podcast today again, and there wasn't a whole lot of high-efficiency trains available. What's up, Albert Matar, my buddy from Charlotte, North Carolina? I was in Charlotte not too long ago. I was dropping my son off at the very first, I forget the name of the team, but it's the Charlotte MLS team. It was their very first home game, and my son's a soccer freak, so he went to the game with his cousin and aunt and uncle, and we dropped him off in downtown Charlotte. Man, that was fun. Driving into Charlotte's a good time. Although for some reason, driving into Charlotte, one of the largest cities in the country, was easier than driving into Wilmington with its poor road structure. I don't want to get off on non-HVAC subjects. Of course, I do often, but whatever. Most cities have a belt line of interstate around them, maybe even two belt lines of interstate. I think Charlotte has 85. It's like 585 or something like that. So Charlotte has their belt line. There's highways on the inside, too. There's like inner and outer belt lines. Raleigh's got the same thing with I-40, 440, and 540. Almost every single town along the way has that, except for Wilmington, because Wilmington's crammed into this tiny triangle between the Cape Fear River and the ocean, and there's like no way to make it easier to drive through, so it's just an awful congested mess all the time. Man, hey, look at that. Trade Masters Online. That sounds really cool. Trade Masters Online is here. It says, hello, Brother Zach from Las Vegas. Hello, man. What's up? Put your name in there if you want me to know your name. Maybe I already know your name, but I don't know that tag, that channel tag, so that's new to me. Albert Matar says that's 485. Okay, I knew I was driving on some kind of 85 around Charlotte. It seemed like it was easy to get around, except for when I tried to kind of drive into center Charlotte. That was a little difficult because there was some traffic jam right there. It wasn't too bad. It was okay. It wasn't too bad. Who else do we have here? We have identifies as a technician. I think that's playing off of our current political climate, saying identifies as something. Identifies as a technician. Hello, hello to you, sir. It's good to see you guys here. I'm glad you tuned in here at the end of the day. We had some stuff, and hello, everything HVACR. What's up, man? I had some stuff I was going to talk about last week, but Justin came on here and ruined it. Just kidding. We had a good time. But I have like some things I write down just in case no one calls and stuff like that. Because, people sometimes they don't feel like calling. Sometimes BIMCO's working, basically, is what happens. BIMCO's our caller. So I had to think of some other thing to say. So I had a few different things written down here, and I will go into that right now. Here's my paper from last week. There was a podcast faux pas. Oh, yeah, I was super ticked. I was sitting here, and we did one of the podcasts from last week. It wasn't Fridays. It was like Wednesdays because I didn't do one on Thursday, and it didn't show up on iTunes. I was like, what is wrong with iTunes? Something sure is wrong with iTunes today. That is for sure the problem. Then I went on to Google Podcast, and it wasn't there. It's like the whole podcast infrastructure is crumbling because I uploaded a podcast, and it's not out yet, and this is my livelihood, and I was real animated about it in my mind. It's like Jack Black, in my mind. So I finally figured out what the problem was a day later because I woke up the next day and it's like, it's still not there. These guys haven't fixed their infrastructure yet. It's because I typed out everything for the podcast when I uploaded it, except I didn't attach a file, an audio file, which is the podcast itself. So it didn't release it anywhere. Even though I pushed the publish button, there was nothing to publish. And usually they put up some kind of red lingo right there that says, please go back to the fields you screwed up, like every form does. But they didn't have that. They just let me go on about my life. But it wasn't my fault, and I fixed it, so that's why one of the podcasts was late. BIMCO is threatening to call me anyway. BIMCO, I hope you do. I really would appreciate a phone call from you today. I would appreciate that. Hear what's going on with your day. So, the other thing I was going to talk about is the great search for Flex. Because I believe we went over it last week, and I'll actually set it up again here because I brought it with me. I brought the information with me. I'm going to play the little clip here from last week where I was talking about the North Carolina government. Then I'm going to tell you where I was able to find Flex, if I was able to find Flex, and all that. So let's watch this real quick, or listen, depending on what kind of media you're on right now, and I'll comment on it as soon as it's over. I received an email like 4 days ago from Lee Johnson, who is a buddy of mine who lives in North Carolina, who watches the show periodically. Lee sent me something that would have been very key to some of the stuff I've already talked about since his email arrived, except I didn't notice his email had arrived because on my phone, only one Gmail account was showing up, which was my personal one and not the Shop Talk one. So, oops, sorry about that. So I'm going to bring up what this email said because it's pretty important to some of the things I've already talked about. And it was from it's from the State Board of Examiners of North Carolina, and I'm going to bring it up, and this is what it said. It says, I am pleased to announce that the North Carolina General Assembly advanced House Bill 243 to Governor Roy Cooper, and the governor signed this legislation yesterday, March 17th, 2022, which was 6 days ago. The new law temporarily changes the commercial and residential insulation R value for ducts installed in ventilated and non-ventilated unconditioned spaces, crawl spaces, and attics. This law will allow for reduced duct insulation values for a period of 2 years. This law is now in effect. So what they're saying is we can use the Flex from yesteryear because there's such a bad supply of Flex. Hey, that's great news. Based on this legislation, contractors can install ducts in residential ventilated and non-ventilated unconditioned spaces, also known as crawl spaces and attics, with a minimum of R4.2 insulation. Any changes in duct insulation values are required to be included in your load calculation. Of course we will. Please be aware that if you install any duct under R6 in an attic space, you will be increasing the potential of condensation formation on the ducts and the potential for mold growth in the attic and in the home. To the podcast. Okay. Listen to the podcast, guys. That's what it says. For those of you who are listening to the podcast, you're already listening to it, so it doesn't matter. So, we're talking about that last week. So, I still had to find this flex. And my brother-in-law, who's flipping this house, who I'm doing this work for, doing like a new duct system underneath, he said, I know this guy, and he's going to have some flex. I'm like, all right, great. So I was going to go look at Lowe's and Home Depot for flex, but okay, that's fine. We can find flex somewhere because all the supply houses around here are out. And like I was saying, the COG guys, we got to wait in the back, like the very back, because there's a lot of big wig companies out there that will just come in and buy everything. And then you can buy it from them, but then they're going to rake your eyes out. So you don't want that. So I called this guy who happened to be like a manager at a different HVAC company, and we ended up talking for like half an hour about licensing and all sorts of stuff. It was like we had a podcast in real life. It was like a real life podcast right there in that moment. I told this guy, I was like, you should come on my podcast. After I explained that I did a podcast, and he was like dumbfounded that, someone in the field could end up doing a podcast one day. He's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, it's possible, I guess. Here I am. So you should come on my podcast. It turns out he's a teacher at a local community college teaching the trade of HVAC. I was like, yeah, we should definitely do that. He says, all right, well, I'll call you back whenever I call about the flex tomorrow. I was like, all right, because he was going to call his supplier. And I guess I'm not sure what was going to happen. I was doing this on behalf of my brother-in-law, but he never called me back. So, never got a call back on that one. Still think he's a nice guy, just never called me back. That's unfortunate. So off to Lowe's I went. Now, I was intending to buy some flex from Lowe's, and I got pricing online, and it said there's a certain amount of boxes here, a certain amount of boxes there. But what I found is when you go to Lowe's, they don't always have the stuff that they say they have online, and sometimes they have more, and sometimes they don't have it at all. So I went to Charlotte on Saturday, which is about an hour south and west of my residence, because my daughter and my son were participating in a contest for JROTC, which is called a Raiders competition. It's like an athletic team that does obstacle courses. They build rope bridges, which is basically they tie rope to 2 telephone poles, and they traverse this rope sets of 2 at a time. Really cool, really athletic. But there's a Lowe's in Charlotte, so I was like, all right, we can go to Lowe's when I'm down there. So we watched the competition. They have 2 teams. They have an all-male team and then a mixed team. So the all-male team actually won first. And last time they did this, both teams won first. But unfortunately, the mixed team, which is my son is the commander of that team and my daughter's on that team, came in third, which was still good. But I know they wanted first because they're heading to Virginia in April for the best of the best competition, which is like a not national level, but a part of the United States, like the southeastern United States. It's all the best teams from that area. So it's a really big deal. So it's really exciting. They had a lot of fun. They, of course, very competitive. Well, and look at that. Albert Matar, I just want to take a second and say thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And he says, I'll put it on the screen here. It said, astonishes me that Home Depot and Lowe's has tons of 4, 6, and 8-inch flex, but her distributors are completely out. Well, I'll get to that. So I couldn't go to the Lowe's in Charlotte because we had our minivan, and both my son and my daughter decided to ride back with us. A lot of times they want to ride on the bus with their friends and kind of hang out and joke around because my son drove my truck to the school that morning early, so he was going to drive it home, but he decided he didn't want to do that. It's like, okay, that's fine. So I ended up going to Wilmington to a few different Lowe's in Wilmington and found every single bit of flex that I needed. All of it. Every single one, the 12, the 8, the 6, the 4, I found it all, but nary a bit of it's R8. Now, I could have bought a couple of them in R8, but the price is just insane. Not that the price isn't insane anyway, but I decided to buy R6. I'm in the crawl space, and honestly, my brother-in-law is a typical house flipper. He wants to keep the cost as low as possible, and that's fine with me. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal because if it sweats in the crawl space at R6, it don't take that much more to sweat as R8 is what I found, especially in North Carolina. And I'm surprised that there were so many boxes of 6-inch R6 at one particular Lowe's. I believe there was probably 20 or more boxes of 6. And the supply houses don't have it. But of course, they're used to having R8 only, because in this area you can only use R8 unless you're going to run flex in a conditioned area for whatever reason. And you can do that because sometimes if you have like an if you have an uninsulated duct running through a conditioned space up high, you get a lot of heat, you get some humidity trapped, and it'll start to sweat. We had an issue like that at a supply house where it would start to sweat. So you end up having to insulate it. So it's possible that you would theoretically want to run like an R4.2 or R6 flex. It's ugly because it's exposed in this particular case, but I mean, you can do it. And sometimes they say that you condition the area in between like a drop ceiling and an actual roof assembly, and it's still technically conditioned space, but the conditions aren't the same as they would be if you were down on like the office floor or something like that. So it's complicated. Sometimes you got to use it. Let me read down through some of these comments here. We have Old Handy Luke, who's not old. He's not old, but he is handy. He's I don't know how old he is now, but he's got to be what, about 20 years old or something. Luke, where are you at? Eric says, I always call Lowe's and Home Depot to see if they have the product line and how much is in stock, because you were right about the inventory. I was surprised. One of them had almost everything that I needed, and it did show it had quite a bit of stuff, but I was skeptical because I'd gone to a different Lowe's, and they did have like one of the items I wanted, but a lot of it they had R8, and R8 was just so expensive. I was like, I'm not going to buy a bunch of R8 because I believe I can probably find R6, because these Lowe's look like they do have a lot of the stuff. I don't know. The metal fittings were a lot more than the Johnstone prices. I compared some of those. So if you're buying takeoffs, flat duct collars, like sticky back collars for flat duct, tab collars, start collars, whatever you want to call them, they were, in general, a time and a half more expensive. Okay, we have Nick Guerrero says most companies will fulfill orders for national accounts first. And you know what? I get it, because these guys are their bread and butter. So I don't expect to be in the front of the line. And because I don't expect it, I went and got stuff from Lowe's, and I have the stuff now. So I might have paid a little bit more than the other guys paid. And I don't even know if I did, because actually I could go look back on, I have a Johnstone quote. The guy told me, so we don't have any of this stuff. And I don't know when we're getting it, but I can put the price down. It's like, well, okay, that's fine. So I do have the quote somewhere. I can kind of check. Luke's 19, by the way, everybody. And Trade Masters Online says their big box stores make them a lot more money than Skinny Pete's Trade Supply. Yeah, that's funny. And for some reason, I can't see all the comments, guys. Let me see if I can get down there. But I see that Luke says, I look old enough to buy beer, though. All right, well, hey, great. You can be just like a lot of the tradesmen. After a full week, you go get hammered. Don't do that. Don't make that mistake. Don't get hammered. Have a beer or two. Don't get hammered, Luke. Luke's like, you're not my dad, man. No, I am not. No, I am not. So I found all the flex, though. That's the fulfillment of the story here. So just before I started this whole gig right here, I was down at my shop. I was taping up all the boots, and I made a video of it so I could put it on like Instagram and stuff of me taping the boots, just so people will complain about me not masticing the boots. I don't like mastic. I like tape. And people don't like tape any longer. People are anti-tape. I like people to pick whatever they want. I love tape. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. I did do one thing with the ductwork, though, that was not in the original plan. I did have a 14-inch flex and a 10-inch flex. And because 14 was so hard to find, none of the box stores had 14-inch flex, even online. I ended up changing it to 12. But it ended up being just fine. It'll work out just fine. I'll test the static pressure and confirm it, but it should be okay. It should be fine. Sizing ductwork can be a little chauncey. Sometimes you have to make decisions based on what's available, and that's not a perfect world. You want it to be a perfect world. You want the ductilator to spit out a number, and you put in that size duct. It just doesn't work that way. Sometimes you can't fit things certain places, and you have to do the best you can. And I know guys don't like that. Like you say, I have this attic run. I've seen this a lot, where you'll have, it's not like a dormer, but it's like a room that juts out from a house, and you just have a very small area in the attic where you're able to run ductwork, and maybe you can't run it below. Maybe it's a slab or something, and they don't like mini splits. I put a lot of qualifiers on this statement. And you can only get like a 6-inch out there, and you got to run a 6, whereas you would run an 8 or something like that. But that's some of the compromises you make. Trade Masters Online says, fine, good enough for my brother-in-law. Hey, that's what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking. Nick says, bold of you to assume I wait until the end of the week to get hammered. I like that, Nick. I get hammered every night. I had a friend that used to do that. He used to get smashed every single night, and that friend was me. And from the period when I was Luke's age, I was not making very good decisions. Luke's obviously, he's made a lot better decisions than me. He's invested in his future. He cares about the trade. He's studying the trade. You can tell because he appears on these online things. Obviously, he cares about learning about the trade. Otherwise, why would you be here? You know what I'm saying? But when I was 19 and 20 years old, I was getting hammered on a daily basis. I still remember going to the liquor store and buying the Clan McGregor Scotch in the pint because it was $4.95. And you could get a pint of scotch, and we drank pretty much a pint of scotch almost every single day, and we were hammered every single day. That was an awful decision, and I am glad that time is over. I have not drank anything in the last, good grief, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years, not a drop. But from the years of, well, let's be honest, 15 years old to around 21, 22, I drank enough for a lifetime, so I'm good. I'm fine. Oh. Nick says me is my preferred person to party with. Yeah, that was my case too. I had some friends that I would party with, but then it was just me sometimes too. I remember just watching Saturday Night Live back when it was good and drinking heavily. It's not good anymore. I don't like politics on Saturday Night Live. I like it to be funny. So, okay, let me do a little bit of a sponsor notification because we have some great sponsors that make this show possible, including Yellow Jacket. Yellow Jacket is sending me a recovery machine to, I guess, show you guys because I'm an influencer. That's what I am. I'm an influencer. I'm going to show you this recovery machine and you guys are magically going to go buy it. And that is the logic of influencers. But for real, they're going to send this new prototype recovery machine, so I'll let you guys see it and see what it's all about. We'll see what we think of it. And that'll be coming up whenever they decide to ship that thing my way. So I look forward to that because it's always neat getting new stuff to look at. Navac's got a brand new battery-powered Swager that they released recently. I know it was at AHR, but I wasn't there because I've already gone to my one conference that I'm going to go to in my lifetime. So I'll just read about it or I'll ask AK if I want to. But that's out now. I'm sure TrueTech Tools will have that. TrueTech Tools is another partner. The Shop Talk code, you get 8% off. You go to TrueTechTools.com and you buy all this great stuff, and it makes me look great. And TrueTech goes, we're going to stay with this guy and give this guy millions of dollars. And that's what I want to happen. So please do that. We have Refrigeration Technologies. They have a whole bunch of stuff for the springtime. All the coil cleaner you need from the Viper Bright. They have stuff from eco-friendly all the way down to the fins are gone if you don't wash it off. They have everything you need. They have stuff for gas piping. They have stuff to clean your hands with. They have all kinds of stuff. But at coil cleaning time, that's the place to go. That's also at TrueTechTools.com, and a lot of your supply houses will have that as well. We have Company Cam. Company Cam is a service that kind of consolidates a lot of the information that your guys put together on their job sites, including pictures. That's why they call them Company Cam. And what it does is it allows you to organize these pictures, these communications, so that you can reflect back on them in time of customer issue, and maybe just to reflect back on them so you know what happened at a job. You have a reference point for when you're looking back maybe a year or two in the future, so you know exactly what happened those days when you were on that job. And you can go to companycam.com to find that. And last but not least, it's ewccontrols.com. Man, forced air zoning, got it right there in the house right over there. I can see it. Well, I can see it when I do that. 3-zone system. I got to upgrade my thermostats. I got Walmart thermostats on the wall, and the fact that they're not auto changeover is biting me in the buttocks because it is cold at night and warm during the day, and I'm not remembering to go and move that switch over. So I need to be doing that. Okay, so that's next on the list, but the zoning itself works good. Zach needs to put in better thermostats. That's different, but there you go. Okay, that's all the sponsors I think the show has right now. We may have less tomorrow, or we may have more. You never know. Keep your fingers crossed. I'm going to put up on the screen, if you do want to call in, and like Bemco does, we can definitely have you call in. Let me see here. Let me put it up here. There we go. 910-970-0043 if you want to call in and talk about something. But if you do call in, be ready to talk about something. Don't just call and be like, hey, how's it going? And then there'll be nothing there. We could talk about your favorite smart probe or whatever you want to talk about. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. I like talking, as you can tell. I like talking, but then when I'm done with the show, I like to go inside and no one to bother me. So it's just, I'm really kind of a paradox, to say the least. Until someone does call in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about my vacuum video I released on Friday because it was a colossal fail. Yeah. I release all the videos, guys, even the ones where I look like a moron. So the vacuum video, I was trying to evacuate 5 milliliters of water out of this rig that I built out of vinyl tubing. It looks like somebody is calling in. So we'll get back to the vacuum in just a second. We'll get back to your comments in a second because I see some new comments. Let me take Bimco's number here, or Bimco's call. Bimco, what?
Oh, hey.
Hey, man.
How's it going, Zach?
Hey, do you work, you do air conditioning stuff?
No, I do a little plumbing mostly now.
Oh my gosh, why did you call? What are
It's not like you're running out of steam. You need some help.
Yeah, I do run out of steam. It's been about 26 minutes. It's an
Here's
afternoon.
the phone number if anyone wants to call. Biggest wink you've ever seen or heard in your life.
I know. It's like, all right, that's pretty much everything that I have to talk about for like the whole week. Someone needs to come in here and like, just it's like stoking the fire.
Beat that flexible dead duct horse to death.
I know. How much can I talk about the flex duct? I found it. It's over, you know?
Hey, what'd you think about that picture I sent you of that ductwork from that house getting built down the street?
Oh my gosh. Now I got to bring it up on the...
Did you see that?
I know I did, but I got to go look at it now. See if I can bring it up simultaneously while we talk.
I want to go do like a better like walkthrough video of it, just to show you how it like looks all the way around. The plenum's like 3 foot long, and there's like 18 ducks coming out of it.
Oh yeah, Ductopus. I saw this.
Yeah. That's the one.
Okay, just for reference, because this is a podcast and no one can see this anyway because it's on my phone. It's like an air handler, it looks like, with a plenum on top, like a supply plenum, and it's just like flexes coming off of it everywhere, like it's a sea urchin or something.
Yeah, I think there's like 8 ducks coming out of that 3 foot long plenum.
Hey,
it's like 3 12s, 2 10s, 3 6s, and an 8.
What's your affiliation to this duct system?
No, none. It's just some house they're throwing up down the street from me.
Oh, so you just did like a looky-loo thing. You want to see what was in there?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doorknobs on there, and I was just curious.
I mean, they're making you go inside.
Yeah, well, I was going on a walk with my 2-year-old, and he started exploring, so that's my excuse.
Well, Susie's here. Welcome back, Susie. Susie's here saying that's how they do it in Texas. I thought it was like a Florida duct system.
Seems like
something.
No, that's pretty typical down here, apparently.
Hey, know why this duct system exists? Hey, what's going on, Bibka? What are you doing?
I'm trying to buy this damn Dr. Pepper, dude. I'm dying for a soda right now.
Why is it talking?
Because it's a smart vending machine.
What does it mean to be a smart vending? How much smarter can it get besides you just give it money and it gives you a drink?
I'm really trying. It's making it hard.
This is like live coverage of Bimco buying a Dr. Pepper. This is what the show's become.
Yeah, so what it's come down to. It's awful. My bad.
Stick around after the break while Bimco drinks his Dr. Pepper on air.
Oh my God, it dropped 2, bro.
Wait, this is a big deal. Hey, look, I'm drinking Dr. Pepper too.
Just won the lottery live on the air.
Oh, that's nice. That's
but
really
no,
nice.
Other than that, it's been pretty boring, dude. We've just been continuing repiping these water source condensers. So
how long will you be there?
Nothing crazy. Huh?
How long will you be there?
Forever, because we've been here since like November of last year doing all kind of things. So.
Oh my gosh.
We're never leaving. We've done the boiler repipe. We've done gone through every VRF system in here, like to check for addressing issues. Because like I said, we found a ton of those. We've added in controls and changed the logic several times. We put in new sensors on their air handler for their common areas. We've just been all through this building, which is great. I'm all for it because it's been keeping us busy as since we are kind of a new startup here in town.
Well, I guess I've been looking for someone to talk about boilers for like a month and a half. Do you work on boilers?
Sort of, not really.
Well, okay,
But
what does
kind
that
of.
mean?
I mean, they're just it's basically just a furnace, but instead of a heat exchange to air, you're doing it to water.
Well, yeah, we had a question. I feel bad for the guy because he sent in a question via email. He's talking about like water pressures and stuff in boilers. I was like, I don't know, man.
Oh,
I
well,
have no
that's
idea.
all. I mean, that all depends on the boiler. I mean, I think, and the
Oh, yeah.
application.
I was
You're
like,
gonna want to read the manual, and I think most of it's you look at your delta across it and your temperature and adjust your valves from there. But then it also depends too. Some of them have internal pumps and some don't.
I feel like that you know everything about these boilers.
Dude, I know absolutely very little about boilers, honestly.
I
I've worked on
don't
them a
know
little
anything
bit,
about
but
them.
I couldn't tell you about fucking size and number, none of that stuff.
Well,
What?
that's what I was wondering because the guy's asking me. I was like, well, I want to find somebody.
9:30.
Wait, what? Bibco.
All right, we're discussing our time.
Oh, you punching out now?
9:30. I'm getting ready to. Just putting tools away. Homeboy couldn't remember when we started our time this morning.
Hey, when did you start your time this morning? Oh, now he's in the wind. Literally.
Oh, did I lose you? Oh, no, there you are.
No, I heard a hurricane going.
Oh, God. It is a bit windy here in San Antonio today.
That's what I was asking. When did you start this morning?
Oh, not 8, but we had a meeting at the shop to go over some safety, distracted driving.
Oh, did someone call in?
No, I mean, not that I know of, because, dude, you got to see the graphics on our truck. You can barely see them. Like, it's white trucks with, like, reflective white lettering on the side, and the logo's real small, and there's not even a phone number. Like, if somebody gets mad at us in traffic, I don't think they're going to have any luck figuring out who the heck we are.
That seems counterintuitive for the advertising.
Well, we don't get a whole lot of commercial work by advertising on the side of your truck. So.
Well, I mean, it sounds like these things on Facebook where they put up all the dots and say, "What do you see?" That's what it sounds like.
Oh, I don't know what Facebook even looks like anymore.
Well, that's good. No, that's good. I think that's not just Facebook these things are on, but it's like you got to pass some kind of Rorschach test to identify your service company.
Yeah. No, it's face crack because it's addicting and it will ruin your life.
Well, you know what? My biggest problem with Facebook is, I can manage it pretty well. I go on there to do shop talk things and I go away. But there's always this little red circle with the numbers in it that tells you how many messages or notifications you have. The notifications are stupid. It's not like somebody needs your attention on something. It's like, hey, somebody in one of your
somebody
groups
commented on this post that you also looked at briefly.
Yes, that's exactly right.
You should check it out.
That's exactly what every single one of them is. I'm like, wow, look how much cool stuff is happening. And it's like every time I go there, it's like the same thing in my brain. It's like, okay, this time it's going to be something useful.
Your friend Bradley pooped today. Go give him a high five.
Yes. Yeah. I used to make fun of those people because they were in my family. It's like, at the store, it's like, what are you talking about? You're at the store. What do you want people to burglarize your house? Is that why you're doing this?
Yeah. Just tell everybody you're out of town.
Yeah, everybody does that. It's like, oh, we're up in the mountains this week. Okay, well, that's a nice TV y'all have. All right. Hey,
not anymore.
I don't lock my door. All right.
Yeah.
Man. Hey, just like clockwork. Hey, just like clockwork. Every time I do one of these, my brother-in-law either texts me or call me, and he's calling me right now.
Oh, talk to him.
Well, I'm not going to answer him live on the air. That would be duplicitous.
That would what?
Like he's not expecting to be on a show. That would be the problem.
It's the best time.
Yeah, that's the best time to do it.
Right. I don't feel like I'm providing a whole lot of value, so.
Oh, Bimco,
just
don't
trying
say
to
that.
throw and go. We got to install a package unit tomorrow or swap one out.
Rooftop?
Oh yeah.
So not too hard
Set
there.
it and
then.
Forget it. No, those are easy.
Curb adapter?
Not that I know of.
Even easier.
Yeah, even better. I think we'll just put on new curb tape and that's it.
Then just like really tying in the electrical's the hard part.
I think it's all electric. I don't even think there's gas on. I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, that sounds pretty easy. That's probably like the easiest possible day there, right? As long as it's not like July or January.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty warm out here today. What did you say? It's like 80 something. 98. That's lying.
98.
No, it's not that hot, but it's like mid 80s probably.
I think somebody's calling me from Charlotte. I want to say that's
Go
Albert.
for it, dude.
Well, I don't have the name in here, and when I don't have the name in here, I don't want to hear somebody calling me, telling them I owe money for a recliner or something like that.
Oh,
which
well,
is not the
if it's
case.
one of those, you should troll him live and make for.
Well, I'll tell you what,
podcast.
they can identify themselves if they want to call, and they can say, "I'm calling, that's me." But I get leery of this. We talked about this last week, how the people call in the robo calls. I don't want to be answering robo calls on the air. It's like, is your name Zachary Sciota? You could have won, or like the estate is owed you $1,000.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, we were taking turns cutting each other off. I got one the other day, and I thought it was a robocall, but it was actually a real dude. He's just, really good at sounding like a robot. And it's like, hi, my name's Ryan. I'm like, you're not real. And he's like, okay, bye. I felt kind of bad.
Real. You're not
a real person, Ryan.
If Santa calls me, that's what I'll say. Yeah, I'll say that. It was Albert. I didn't answer Albert's call. I feel bad now. He can call back, though.
Albert.
If he calls back, I'll say goodbye
I'm
to you.
boring today.
But
come on, Albert.
Then.
Get back in here.
Prince
Just
Albert.
trying to help fill some time.
Well, I appreciate that, man. It makes it sound like there was nothing happening, but, that's fine.
I was talking to Ben this morning, how we mentioned him on the show the other day.
That's right.
You and Beaver talking HVAC Tactical.
That's correct. That's right.
I'm just catching up with him a little bit. He's like, really? I didn't know he was doing stuff again. I was like, yeah, man, you should call in.
He didn't know I was doing stuff. I never stopped. What are you talking about?
Well, you weren't doing as much live stuff.
Oh, you mean the lull? Oh, yeah. There was a lull.
Yeah, the lull. We was talking about the great lull.
Just a little gully.
Yeah.
Just a slight lull. And now Albert's not calling anymore. It's like, now that we totally ran out of stuff, we're talking about other people's conversations now. So HVAC Tactical, those are cool shirts. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to get him to flow me some stuff. I'll be like, hey, I'll be a ambassador or something.
Hey, I got good news for you, Bimco. He's calling now. So I'm going to put you out of your misery. All right. See ya. Bye. Hello, you're on the air.
Hey, Zach, what's going on? It's Albert.
Albert, what's happening, man? So I had to answer the first time. I really do get like 1,000 robocalls a day.
Oh, like we all do, man. Hey, so if you're looking at the messaging, Corey Peters brought up something really interesting. It's something I haven't seen you talk about before. It's about these big one-stop shop companies.
Okay, I'm going to read out the comment real quick. I'll put it on the screen for those of you watching YouTube. It says, Zach, how do you feel about these one-stop shop companies, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, etc., moving into our markets? Will us HVAC-only guys be around in 10 years? Interesting. Well, since you brought it up, Albert, why don't you lead the way? What do you think about them?
Well, it's interesting. The topic I actually want to talk about, it covers that, but it covers something even bigger. And I don't want to say nefarious, but so you got these big companies now. They're acquisition companies. They're coming in and just buying up HVAC companies. I mean, the Wrench Group just bought one of the largest HVAC companies in North Carolina, which was Morris Jenkins out of Charlotte. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they're about $100 million company a year, family owned, which is crazy insane. They have something like 250 HVAC technicians. They have 75 plumbing technicians. In fact, I worked for them for several years as a trainer. And they just got bought out last year by the Wrench Company, which is a acquisition company out of Georgia. And I think they paid like $385 million for this company.
Holy crap.
It's the craziest thing. So my brother does plumbing in California. He's over in Santa Clarita. He runs 3 Rooter Hero franchises. And part of their business is they're starting to pick up HVAC companies. But they're in competition, which the Wrench Group, which is out of Georgia. Wrench Group just picked up 12 HVAC companies in the West Covina, Santa Clarita, like South Los Angeles area. They're just buying up all of these companies. And it's kind of odd. But the reason I talk about that is if you look back to farming, and I don't know how many guys on here have ever been on a farm or anything. I grew up on a sugarcane farm in the Everglades. But 93% of all dairy farms are owned by 10 acquisition companies. And the other like 7% are family private owned farms. It's like it's a really crazy thing. People don't even realize that. It's happened in the meat market. It's happened in the chicken industry. And that's why like meat market, like the meat, pork, chicken, all that's fluctuated. It's happened in the rental industry. So if you look at real estate over the last 5 years, these big companies coming out. They've purchased up all these small houses, and then they're now for rent for lease, but they make it almost very difficult for people to actually qualify to rent these houses. My cousins have had issues trying to rent houses and stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. And then I hear about these companies coming in and purchasing all these HVAC plumbing companies. They're keeping them under one house. So they're calling them partnerships, but really they own them. The biggest problem we're talking about flex is that I go into these parts houses, they don't have horizontal coils. They don't have refrigerant. Last year, I went 2 weeks in Charlotte not being able to purchase 410A. It's the craziest thing. And they're like, man, these companies are just hoarding them, buying them up in pallets. They're buying up all the equipment. They're buying up all the ductwork. And it just, for the smaller companies, like I'm no longer a one guy in a van. I've probably got 7 or 8. I've got 7 technicians out in the field. There's probably about 9 of us in total. And but I mean, even that makes it very difficult for me to, go out there and not even compete against these other companies because I don't have the equipment to do repairs. I don't have equipment to do sales. And I just thought this would be an interesting topic to talk about.
That is an interesting topic to talk about. Okay, since you're in Charlotte, big town, I'm in Wilmington, kind of outside of Wilmington, small town. This has probably been on your radar a lot more than it has been on my radar. So what's the danger here? What's the biggest danger for you, do you think? The end of mom and pop shops altogether?
Yeah. I mean, eventually, I mean, it's funny. You think of the movie Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes, where none of the restaurants survived. They all stayed under one chain. It ended up being Taco Bell. Just think of a future that way where these big acquisition companies, everything's basically owned by a certain amount of corporations, and then everybody's just working for either A, B, C, or D corporation.
I could see that as hugely problematic in lots of ways. Service, with anything that gets larger and larger, I've always said, this is my opinion only, that when a corporation reaches a certain size, it takes on the characteristics of like a government entity, where It becomes separated, impersonal, and the customer is more fuel than something to be taken care of. But I don't know how you stop that unless you expect the government to step in and legislate that into oblivion. I mean, what do you think?
Well, here's the thing is, can they stop it and stop it? Because technically they're not corporations, right? They're calling acquisition partnerships. You don't partner with Morris Jenkins, who's $100 and something million company, for $385 million. I mean, normally when I've ever seen an HVAC company being purchased, they're purchased for about 30% of their value, right? So if they're, let's say $1 million company, they're usually purchased for anywhere between $250,000 to $300,000. That's been my experience in the last 20 years. But now these companies are overpaying and they're calling them partnerships. So no longer is it like, oh, it's, the Wrench Group is this big corporation and, that controls the market. It's their partnerships because most of these companies are still maintaining their names, but they're all controlled under one company.
So if it's gone from I'm paying 30 cents on the dollar to I'm paying, let's say, $1.25 on the dollar, the reason behind that is what? Because before people were looking for people that were desperate, trying to get them out of a jam, and now they're just kind of build this huge conglomerate of power? I mean, what's the difference?
That's pretty much it. I mean, think of it this way. How do you control the market? You buy up everything. You have major control over it. It's just like like you're buying a business. If you're doing a hostile takeover of business, you get more than what you get more percent stakeholder control of the business, and then you make all the decisions. If you want to look at it this way, a company comes in and they own the entire market. They purchase 50% or more of the companies out there. And we're not talking about the guys who moonlight, who do side work and all that stuff. We're talking about legitimate HVAC contractors. And they own more than 50% of the territories. And they're absorbing all these customers lists from the companies that they purchase. So now they go out there and they go, okay, we're going to buy all the coils. We're going to buy all this much refrigerant. We're going to buy all this flex. What happens to the remaining 49% of the one guy in a shop, or the companies more on average that have like 8 to 10 guys in their shop, like my company? And now we're basically put out of business, right? We can't service your house. I go out there, you have a no AC issue, I don't have refrigerant. Or you have a coil leak, I don't have a coil for you. Oh, I want a new system. I don't have a coil that matches the outdoor unit. Or I have the coil, but I don't have the outdoor unit. So that means I can't service you. That's one less customer. They go to the next company, and so on and so on. And then eventually, you start to lose over time the practicality of your company. It makes it harder for you to do business. And with inflation and the cost of everything, it makes it even more harder. So I didn't get booted from a company, from a distributorship. I was a carrier dealer for the past 8 years. But because last year, I wasn't able to sell enough coils. I wasn't able to service as much equipment as I wanted to. I mean, I was having hard times getting control boards. I was ordering stuff on Amazon because I couldn't get it directly from my distributor. Wow. So they said, hey, man, the last couple of years, you've been purchasing about $225,000 worth of equipment from us, and it's mixed. It's equipment, refrigerant, parts, all that stuff, coil cleaner. And last year, you did $137,000. And they're like, we're going to have to take you out of the tier. And now the margins that we're charging you are going to go higher. And he goes, it's just the way. He goes, you do better, we'll get your margins back to where they need to be at. And I'm like, well, I mean, you guys didn't have the stuff available for me. And they're like, we understand that, but that's just the way it is. So now I'm working with a different distributor, but they're on the same lines. They've even told me, they're like, hey, we're tiered. And if you hit a certain area, we're going to maintain you there. But if you start to drop out of that area, then we have to drop your tier rating, which means that what they do is they call it selling on margins. Your margin goes from 8% to 10% to 15% to 25%. And so now at that point, I'm not competing even with the big guys because I'm selling equipment at my profit margins, the same price as them. But I can't offer 24-hour service 7 days a week because reality, I don't have enough employees to cover that on Christmas, on 4th of July. So the smaller companies start to slowly go away. We start going, hey, it's going to be a lot easier to go work for the Morris Jenkins or the Wrench Group or whoever it is, because I'm having the hassle of not being able to service my customers.
Yeah, the problem I'm hearing is how do you rectify the situation? I mean, in my position back when it was real critical that when I was in business 24, this is all I did was go out and do service calls. I found the most appealing thing is to find the smallest supply house so you were the biggest possible fish you could be there. That's not possible, I think, by and large anymore. So what do you do? I mean, you're going up against like this huge entity, and there seems like there's no recourse. Like you just have to fight, and that's your only option.
Well, that's it. You start to try to reinvent yourself. Just how much more can you do? You say, hey, I'm gonna start going. I remember, Zach, one of the first stories I ever saw when I watched your videos when you were Italian 875 was about that horrible Christmas you once had, where you just didn't have enough. Remember that story? It was one of the most honest stories you ever had, where you were talking about how hard it was that Christmas. You were a business owner, and it was just a rough Christmas that year. And that's why I thought this would be interesting for you, because although you don't rely solely on your HVAC business, you've got a lot of different things going on. For guys like me who went into the business and we're kind of risking it all, and now we're starting to see all these little kind of difficulties. I just thought you'd have a little more input in this.
Oh, yeah.
What could we do? I mean, okay, I could start offering 7 days a week. Whenever you became a business owner, if this is your job, this is the only thing you're going to focus on, you already work 7 days a week. But I can't force my guys to work 7 days a week. So a lot of the times, even though I have, 7 techs out there, I work Sundays. I work Saturdays. I catch calls late at night because I can't run them to the ground in summertime. If I run them to the ground in January, February, March, April, and then it's go time, May, June, July, August, they quit on me. I already lost installers because I couldn't afford to keep them on full time. And we didn't have equipment. I was having a hard time from Carrier right before I switched over to my new distributor. They didn't have 80% furnaces. They're like, hey, sell 92% furnaces. I'm like, okay, I don't sell 92% furnaces in attics. And in Charlotte, most of our businesses are going to be attic applications. We do have crawl spaces, but most of them are in the attic. And selling a 92% furnace, it comes with its own set of issues when it gets to some really cold temperatures.
No, I remember first going back to what you said. I remember the story very vividly, the one you're referring to, because we had to go to the Salvation Army for the Christmas presents for the kids because we had nothing. I mean, we had lost everything. I believe this was during the housing crisis if I remember correctly, 2008, 2009. Whenever the housing crisis happened and the mortgage market kind of just fell apart, I pretty much lost everything I had. It took a little while for everything to get lost, but over the next 2 or 3 years after that, I lost everything. I mean, I admit it because it's the truth, and I admit it because, a lot of people won't admit it, and I have no problem with it because, it ebbs and flows in our business. Every few years you'll have a bad year. You'll have a summer that was too cold or a winter that was too hot, and business suffers because of it, and you have less money, especially single man company, because it's magnified for us. The thing that I think redeems people in the single man company position is the fact that the connection that we can potentially have with a customer is going to be greater than any other company. If we do our work properly and we service our customers as best we can, I think that's the best possible connection, and you will have customers that will come back to you not because they searched online to find you, because they trust you and they don't even check anywhere else. And you accumulate those customers over time with a successful small business. And I think that's how that protects you from some of these issues. That's probably the best advice that I would have, because a 7-day service, sometimes that's impossible with a single man company. I mean, we go out of town. We do things where we're never there 24/7. But I know that the people that I met along the way would never have called another person because of the connection that I had made with them. And I think you lose that when you rotate techs, you rotate installers. They always see a new face. I think that's an advantage that we have in that position. And it's probably, I don't say it's our only advantage. I mean, less overhead's an advantage. But when we get into the situation that you're talking about, where you're buying at a higher margin and it's getting higher and higher, even when the supplier didn't have the material, and that's why your material total is lower. I mean, that might be one of our only advantages left, as far as I can see.
Right. Yeah.
And it's tough.
Yeah, you're competing out there now. You got these Michael and Son companies that come out there and they're like, we're doing heating, we're doing electrical, we're doing plumbing, we'll sell you a generator. And I'm just like, obviously they're always more overpriced, and that's just with the overhead. They're always going to be more expensive. But you live in an Amazon world. It's what I'm basically getting at. You live in an Amazon world. People really, even though you do have loyal customers, how many of those can you get when you want people that want something now? They want to go to one place and be able to go buy a book, a computer, headphones, all sorts of stuff. It's the same thing with these big companies that are coming in now. And they're like, well, we offer everything under the sun. There's even a company here that's called Killingsworth that for the longest time, they were only a landscaping company, one of the largest landscaping companies in Charlotte. And then they did landscaping and pesticides. So they went out there and they killed the cockroaches. They did landscaping, pesticides, and then all of a sudden they started doing cross-space renovations. So now they did landscaping, cross-space renovations, and pesticides, and they got into HVAC, and then they got into plumbing, and they got to electrical. And you're like, dude, they already had a huge customer base, and then they keep everything in house, and then they do a good job when it comes to marketing and training and all that. But I see something that when I saw this documentary a couple years ago about how the whole dairy industry was controlled by 10 companies basically, and then I saw that in the meat market it slowly happened as well, and now in chicken, like the Tyson chicken farms, they're like one of the 7 companies that own 93% of all chicken farming in the United States. You start saying like, man, if they're getting into real estate and now they're doing it in HVAC, I'm like, how long do we start to survive? Because that's the big thing. I grew up on a farm, and I know what it's like to see farms close down. I mean, in a farm community, and you go out to the Midwest. I was driving to Oklahoma a couple months ago. I drove through Oklahoma, and where used to be farms on the I-40 was nothing but windmill farms. No longer just a regular family-owned farms. It's crazy.
That is crazy. I live on I-40 myself. In fact, I can see I-40 from where I'm sitting right here, believe it or not. I'm at a loss as far as how we compete in the long run on this, because what I'm thinking about is I've thought to myself when I think about going to shop at Home Depot, Lowe's, going to Walmart, all these larger stores, saying I would love to support a small town store. Like I'd love to go to a local hardware store, but I mean, there's no way that I'm getting the M18 fuel jigsaw at my local hardware store as cheap as I can get it from Home Depot. So in the end, I've already made the same decision the customers are making. I've gone with the cheaper more readily available object instead of trusting some down home person that potentially has better service. So
Right.
I'm actually, if I think about it, I'm part of what the problem would be in this situation and not the solution, depending on which way you look at it. So I don't know how you face that, man, because you're right. We want stuff right now, and we're not willing to take a financial hit to support a local business, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I just think that people right now are not patient anymore. I mean, the patience is just isn't there. People just Amazon, like I said, it's an Amazon world. People want it now, and they can get it now, or they want it from one exclusive place. I mean, everybody you know, your brother, your sister, your neighbor, they all have Prime accounts, and they all order from Amazon. And like I said, even last year when I was having issues getting parts, like even hard start capacitors, I couldn't get a hard start kit, a KS1 hard start kit on my distributor for the life of me. And I was like, man, it's a simple thing. Easy traps. I'm like, you guys don't have an easy trap? Are you kidding me? You don't have SS2 switches? I would go on Amazon and I would get them, and not only get them, I'd get them cheaper.
Yeah.
I mean, I was paying $54 for a KS1 hard start kit at Carrier Distribution or Total Line, and I'd go online on Amazon and get it for $37. And I was like, shit, I'm going to order 10 of those.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. I think I've done the same thing as far as getting some stuff on Amazon that's just not available. I think there's some circuit boards actually on Amazon that I could get that were cheaper than the supply house, and it's their brand, supposedly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny that way. I don't know. I would love to say that I've thought about this consciously, last week or two. I've thought about this, how I'd like to support in a different way people that are locally based. And I think that one of the benefits of doing this sort of thing, not speaking about HVAC, but just in general, that if you sever your connection to these things that are readily available, you tend not to piss away money as much either, since it's not readily available. And it's almost like there's a financial wisdom to separating yourself from this instant gratification of Amazon, even, whatever store, like Home Depot online, Lowe's online, any of these places. If you step back and say, I'm going to go into one of these local places and shop face to face, I mean, you buy a lot less for many reasons, not just because of the price, just because you separate yourself from just that one step away. I don't know. That's tough to do, man, though. People can't do that by and large.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to hijack the rest of your show, but I'm hoping, because you guys, you've always had a lot of followers, but we get guys from everywhere. I mean, from, like Kentucky, Las Vegas, California, and San Antonio, Texas, Florida. And it'd be great to see these guys kind of chime in one day on a future show and just talk about it, because it can't just be happening in Charlotte. Obviously, it's not. I mean, my brother's in California, the other coast. I mean, he's at the other extreme, and it's happening there with the exact same company. So it'd just be interesting to hear some guy, a future show about something like this, about these bigger companies coming in, and then how we as smaller companies, whether it's one guy in a truck or 10 guys, how do you compete against this? Or what do you see as a resolution towards this in the future?
I think that's a great idea, Albert. In fact, I just started last week doing more of these during the day streams. I'm going to continue with this because it's a way that I can actually get the podcast recorded in an efficient way and talk to guys as they pass through. This is the first one I've done in the afternoon, so I'll try to split some time between morning and afternoon because guys are available at different times. But absolutely, I welcome calls in this area or any area. It's really the guys that will steer the show. I have some ideas that I write down, but when the calls come in, the guys have control. We'll talk about whatever they want. So
you got it, man. All right, Zach.
I appreciate it, Albert.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
Take care. You too. Bye. So that was our buddy Albert Matar right there. I like that. I like it. I like the fact that we have Nick in the comments. We have Kangaroo God in the comments. We are going to wrap up this show because we're at 1 hour. Corey Peters, I hope we answered a little bit what you were talking about. We can continue to talk about this on the next show. I plan to be back tomorrow morning. If you guys have a certain time, say, hey, Zach, try to do more shows at this time or this time, you can text that to me. My number's at the bottom of the screen. You can text it to me. You can email. I know that I got an email from the fella that calls himself, try to find his name. I think it's Trademasters Online. I think that's Carl. He emailed me, so I'll read that email as soon as the show's over. You can always email me at hvacshoptalk@gmail.com. You can text me. If you don't hear from me, I might have gotten busy. Don't be afraid to text me again, because sometimes it's hectic here. Got a bunch of kids, got a wife, got a mother-in-law, got a dog. There's chickens outside the window right now. A bunch of guineas just ran by, and no, that's not slang. It's the birds, guineas, okay? There's a cat that just walked by. This is all legit. I'm actually naming animals as they walk by. It's like there's an ark parked over there or something. But I would love to have input on a variety of subjects. You guys, this is your show. I mean, I know some stuff, and I'll bring up some stuff that I want to talk about, but you can take it wherever you want to take it. I'm here to kind of go back and forth with you, kind of bring information out of you, hopefully in a good way. And I just want you guys to feel like you can call in about whatever you want. You can talk about what smart probes you think are the best. You can talk about running the business. You can talk about being an employee. I don't have experience in every area that people are going to call in, but I'll talk with you the best I can about it. All right. Nick says I could tell him a giddy. Yeah. Well, that's what I was getting at. I wasn't trying to say that. I was trying to say that the birds were going by. And I don't know if I just want a group of Italians running by, you know, whatever Italians do. The bop-a-da-boo, bop-a-da-bow. I don't know. Whatever Italians do. You know what I'm saying? I'll tell you one thing, Nick. Italians don't eat at Olive Garden. Give me an amen on that, Nick. Italians do not eat at Olive Garden. That's what Nick has taught me. Now, and then when I go to Olive Garden, I realize that that's not real Italian food. It's just like eating Walmart Italian. That's what I call it, Walmart Italian. Actually, I really call it Garden de Oliva. This is my Italian phrase. Next, no, hell no, we do not. All right, we do eat at Olive Garden, but, you know, I don't know where the legit Italian place is. Sometimes we'll get a hole in the wall, and it'll be like a pizza place, or they'll have stromboli or calzones or something, and we'll go in there. It's like, this is really good. Well, I'm not Italian. I've never been to Italy. I don't know if it's legit or not, or it just came off the back of a ragu box or whatever. Nick says great impersonation of him. Bobbity-boobity-boo. All right. Bibbity-bobbity. Okay. Guys, put a like on this if you enjoyed this show. Leave a comment afterwards if you want to in the actual comment section. After the show is over and I turn it into a podcast, this will be unlisted after that, so you won't see it on your subscription stream, just so there won't be too many of these shows on there. But you can still find it by going to the channel page. There'll be a playlist called Live Streams, and you can just watch them there if you want to, or you can listen to it as a podcast, which most people listen to it as a podcast, which is fine by me too. If you want to support the show by giving me money, hey, don't let me stop you. Go to subscribestar.com/Zach-Ciota. All that stuff is in the comments here. I do not go to Patreon because Patreon makes political decisions that I do not agree with. So I go to Subscribestar. That's where I stay. That's where I've been for the last few years. We have a few supporters over there now. I think I saw one of them in the comments over there. In fact, I see two of them in the comments, so I appreciate that. I'll be back tomorrow morning. Unless you guys specifically say, Zach, please do the evening. Please do the afternoon. Afternoon, probably not evening. Not evening. I shouldn't have said evening. But if there's a good time of day that you like to have a show and you really have something you want to talk about, let me know. I'll try to do it. Okay? I'm doing some installs and stuff at the same time, so we'll work around all that stuff. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And I'll play a little outro here. And I'll see you guys on the next one.